That year, the Johnson family was in deep debt. My dad almost couldn't take it and wanted to jump off a building. My fiancé, Ryan, broke off our engagement due to the immense pressure. In the end, he called off the engagement with me. However, my childhood friend Ethan convinced his family to lend a hand. There was only one condition. He wanted to marry me. At that time, I was disheartened, but I have always been grateful that he never gave up on me. Later on, my stepsister Sophia gained some fame. She caught the attention of the Reynolds family. Her career was going smoothly. Meanwhile, I was mocked and ridiculed by my former friends. I had to go abroad to do business alone. On my dad's birthday, I returned home early. I happened to overhear him complaining. At first, to fulfill Sophia's wishes, you went through great lengths to deal with our Johnson family, and I suffered quite a bit because of it. Ethan smiled and said, "Mr. Johnson cares the most for Sophia. If it weren't for your cooperation in the act, how could I have possibly succeeded? I went to great lengths abroad to help Dad buy the collectible he wanted the most. I even rushed back early to celebrate his birthday. As soon as I walked in the door, I was shocked by this surprise. The Johnson family encountered serious trouble before. Dad almost jumped off a building because of his debts. He cried and said he felt he was a burden on my marriage. He lazily leaned back on the leather sofa, casually blowing smoke rings. Back then, that Reynolds kid had such a good relationship with Isabella. If we hadn't put in so much effort, we really wouldn't have been able to break them apart. If Sophia knew, she would definitely be heartbroken." He had a smug look on his face. He said, "I knew all along that they were sensible kids. They would definitely think about the bigger picture, willing to make sacrifices. Ethan, over the years, I've considered you half a son. To be honest, I really do feel a bit guilty inside. Speaking of sacrifice, you're actually quite aggrieved too." Ethan hands Mr. Johnson a cigarette. "Go ahead, Mr. Johnson, as long as Sophia can achieve her wishes, even if I can't be by her side for the rest of my life, I'm willing to do so. Her acting career has just begun, and she has been chosen by the Reynolds family matriarch as an ambassador. It seems marrying into the Reynolds family is only a matter of time. Isabella and I grew up together. Now she is also a rare good helper. I don't feel aggrieved," I replied. My dad nodded. He said, "Even at our family's most glorious times, combined, we still couldn't match the Reynolds family. They can elevate Sophia. In the future, she will definitely succeed. Sophia is my stepsister. She was brought to my home when she was 5. I felt a chill all over. The husband who once promised to be with me forever. Turns out he is also so affectionate towards others. My dad always says he loves me but feels indebted. Yet in his heart, he only thinks of another daughter. They use my happiness to fulfill themselves, but they feel unfair for others." Ethan stood up. He exclaimed in surprise upon seeing me, "Isabella, why are you back? What did you hear?" I turned around. I tried to calm down. "I just got back. It seems I heard you all talking about Sophia. Did something happen to her?" Dad breathed a sigh of relief. He said, "It's nothing. Sophia said she misses you. She hopes you come back. Okay, I'll go upstairs to change. Let's go out to eat together later." The moment the door closed, they immediately started talking quietly. They completely didn't notice I was back. Dad asked with concern, "I'm still worried. How much do you think she really heard she can hold a grudge against us?" "That's fine. But what if she vents her anger on Sophia? What if she causes trouble for her?" Ryan still hasn't accepted Sophia. He might still be thinking about Isabella. "We can't let her ruin things." Ethan patted him and comforted him. "Mr. Johnson, don't worry. I will keep an eye on her." Sophia arrived at the restaurant nearly an hour late. As soon as she sat down, Ethan immediately handed her the menu. He asked with concern, "Are you exhausted? Hurry and order." After she finished ordering, she handed the menu to her dad. Dad didn't even look at it. He just closed it and returned it to the waiter. The dishes were served. There were creamy black truffle, sweet and sour lotus root, and jade white jade. All were desserts and vegetarian dishes. Not a single dish I like. Did they forget? My favorite food is meat. I'm unhappy without meat. I just sat on a plane for over 10 hours to get home. He won't even bother with the superficial efforts anymore. He noticed my bad mood. Dad quickly explained, "Vegetarian food is good for the body. It's healthier. We're not that hungry. Just eat a little. Sophia is a star. It's really not easy to maintain her figure." Ethan nodded and said, "Yeah, Sophia, don't work too hard. Your health is the most important." I felt a warmth in my eyes. I couldn't help but stand up. I put down my chopsticks and walked away quickly. Since I was young, Dad told me he values me the most. He hopes I can be a good role model. When I was forced to practice various talents diligently, Dad took Sophia on vacation abroad instead. When I was required to be first in class, she did it effortlessly. I was arranged by Dad to attend an international school. I used to feel confused and dissatisfied, but Dad told me, in the future, I will take over the entire Johnson family. I wanted to sit in that position. Then I had to bear the corresponding responsibilities. I understand. Since then, I actively took on all the expectations of the family for the eldest daughter. Even later, I had to part ways with my first love, Ryan. I only blamed fate for being unfair in life. How can one only think of oneself during those hardest days? What supported me to keep going was this family. I had my father's support and love, and Ethan's companionship and care. Now, everything suddenly collapsed, I realized. I had been living in a false illusion. No matter how much I gave, or how much I lost, the special favoritism in their hearts will always be reserved for Sophia. I stood by the roadside, suddenly felt weak all over. I involuntarily fell to the ground. When I woke up again, I found myself lying in a hospital bed. Dad was sitting next to me. His face was full of worry. Isabella, the family business now relies entirely on you. You need to get better quickly. I gave a wry smile. Is this really my only value now? I asked Dad, after I get discharged, I'll just stay in the country. You always say that every time you get sick, only Sophia is there with you. Even when I'm busy abroad, I still put effort into helping him choose hospitals and arrange for caregivers remotely. But he only remembers that I'm never by his side when he gets sick. He suddenly said loudly, "That won't do. You might find it a bit inconvenient at home." His tone softened. "Isabella, you should focus on your recovery. It's okay to stay at home for a while longer." At this moment, Sophia called him. It seemed to be urgent. He quickly comforted her. He said he would find a way. Then he turned to ask me, "Isabella, I remember your mother left you a set of high-end jewels. Sophia was invited to a charity auction, but she currently has no suitable jewelry to wear. Can you?" I interrupted in surprise. "Dad, don't say that. This is absolutely not okay. That set of flame star jewelry is embedded with many deep, pure blue diamonds. The central ruby even comes from European royalty. This set of jewelry was passed down from grandma to mom. Mom handed it down to me before she passed away. It is very precious to me," he said with a frown. "Isabella, jewelry at home is not appreciated by anyone. It would be better to let Sophia donate it. This way, it can reflect the grace of the Johnson family, and it can also enhance their reputation through charitable activities. It can still let things realize their value. Isn't that right?" I was so angry my eyes turned red. He shouted loudly, "Using my mother's belongings to give Sophia a good reputation. On what basis?" He was taken aback for a moment. Then he said angrily, "How can you be so selfish? How did your dad teach you since you were little? Are you really asking on what basis? Simply because Sophia is your sister. Because your last name is Johnson. Hurry up and get ready for her." After saying that, he slammed the door and left. In the evening, Sophia walked in slowly, with a hint of a mocking smile on her face. "Big sister, why be so calculative? You have sheltered me from the storm for 20 years. Does it really matter this time?" I looked at her coldly and said, "From childhood to now, I have already compromised too many times. Don't go too far." A hint of pride flashed in her eyes. She deftly opened her phone. She played a recording. "Isabella has been beautiful since childhood. I am strict in my upbringing. She has always been outstanding. She is the most suitable marriage partner. She can help the Johnson family maintain its wealth. My dear Sophia, Dad only wishes for you to live a carefree life. Find someone you truly like and be happy for a lifetime. Whatever you want, Dad will do his best to fulfill it. All my assets are also left for you. My throat is extremely sore. I can't say a word. Big sister, the things I want, I have never been unable to obtain." When the tears keep falling, I think about this. Dad must have said it many times. They both know what's in each other's hearts, but they treat me as a joke. You feel uncomfortable this way. If it weren't for this, how can I stand that you are always better than me? It's better to clarify things now. You'd better understand your position. I still remember clearly. Back then, Ethan followed you every day, but the one he truly liked in his heart was always me. Only me. She took Ethan's wedding ring out of her bag and casually threw it out the window. I felt a blockage in my heart. I really couldn't sit still, so I took a taxi back to the Smith family. I usually live abroad. It's rare for me to come back. I either go to the old house to accompany my in-laws, or return to the Johnson family to take care of my dad. That's when I noticed. The home decor style has turned into French romantic. This is exactly what Sophia likes the most. My study and piano room are also gone. They've been transformed into a luxurious dressing room. When I looked at those clothes, Mrs. Wilson reminded me, "Madam, these are all Miss Sophia's things." I coldly replied. I didn't know she could come and go freely in the Smith family now. She even took my place. She looked a bit embarrassed. She explained in a low voice. It was Mr. Smith who said that. He told Miss Sophia to treat this place as her own home. He also said that even if Miss Sophia only comes here for a few days a year, it's worth preparing well for her. I silently let her go. Then I took out the voice recorder from the bottom of the bathroom box. Outside, there were whispers of discussion. The lady herself has no ability. She doesn't know how to win Mr. Smith's heart. Instead, she blames her sister for receiving affection. I think this is still better than having a husband fooling around outside. Ethan's voice came through the recording, intermittent. How could she compare to you? Just thinking about how she once had someone else in her heart makes me uncomfortable. She is just a capable assistant in my business. Taking her out also makes me look good. It's also quite impressive to take it out. My mom is very emotional. She keeps urging me to have children. What makes her think she is suitable to be the mother of my child? After Ethan and I got married, we have been sleeping in separate rooms. Every word he said shattered my last bit of hope for this marriage. I couldn't accept being his wife, but I had long cared for and looked after him like family in front of others. Ethan always acted like a considerate good man, but I didn't expect he actually hated me behind my back. At that moment, a news alert popped up on my phone. Female star Sophia attended a charity gala wearing a mysterious piece of jewelry. I heard Sophia is very wealthy. The jewelry she brought must be very valuable. Sophia is particularly favored at home. Her father named a restaurant after her. Even her sister and brother-in-law dote on her. I heard this jewelry is her sister's dowry, or even comes from European royalty. The lively scene made my mood even heavier. Ethan clearly knows how important that thing is to me, but they didn't even ask me. They just took it directly from the safe to maintain appearances for herself. At the beginning, I thought they just preferred Sophia. Now, I finally understand. I'm just a pawn that can be discarded. I have worked hard for this family for 20 years, but it was all just to pave the way for Sophia. They spoil her without any principles. As a result, I've endured endless pain until they have used me up. I will just be kicked aside. Didn't Sophia say? Everything from the Johnson family belongs to me. What do you have to feel sorry for? Then, why should I bother to worry about the Johnson family and the Smith family? In 20 years of kinship and 5 years of marriage, it's all just calculations. It's time to end this. I'll call my assistant, tell her to stop all the projects in the country. I placed the divorce agreement on Ethan's bedside. I only took the items my mother left me and my father's medicine. At the charity gala, Sophia is wearing the latest haute couture gown. She confidently walks onto the stage, waving to her father and Ethan in the audience. On the large screen behind her, the fiery star brilliance is showcased from various angles. It has amazed the audience present. Sophia was just about to speak, with a smile still on her lips. At that moment, staff members approached with 2 police officers. One of the officers said to her, "Miss Sophia, we have checked. The set of jewelry you donated was not authorized by the owner. This constitutes a theft. Please cooperate with our investigation." Ethan quickly stood up, immediately explaining for her, "This is a misunderstanding. This set of jewelry was a gift I gave to Sophia." The staff stopped him, stating, "Mr. Smith, this set of jewelry is Miss Isabella's personal property. You seem to have no right to transfer it to someone else. Additionally, I heard you are in the process of getting a divorce." Ethan is both angry and amused. He couldn't help but laugh out loud. "Divorce? What nonsense are you talking about?" A chime sounded. The phone rang. "Ethan, I've placed the divorce agreement on your bedside. Sign it as soon as possible. Let's completely part ways." His expression suddenly turned panicked. He was stunned for a few seconds. Then he hurriedly ran outside. He completely ignored Sophia calling him for help from behind. As soon as Mrs. Wilson saw him return, she told him, "I've packed my bags and left." I don't know where she went. After hearing this, he unsteadily walked upstairs. He tightly clutched the divorce agreement in his hand. He squatted by the bed. He downed 2 bottles of alcohol in one go. "Where is Isabella? I need to find her. I want to confront her in person. How dare she bring up divorce with me? On what grounds does she do this? Where does she live? I vaguely remember. She might be in France, maybe in the Midwest, he thought for a moment. Finally, he sat on the ground helplessly. He sighed. No, it should be in City N. Oh my, I can't believe I never knew where my wife lived. All these years. I haven't visited her even once. Dad called several times before he got through. He asked anxiously, Ethan, I'm starting to have trouble breathing again. Where are the backup medications? I'm feeling really unwell right now. I can't get in touch with Isabella. Sophia never knew about these things either. Ethan kept muttering, she is gone. She is gone. Dad kept coughing on the other end of the line. He urged him anxiously. You need to contact Isabella quickly. Get to the bottom of the matter. Where is my medicine? Let her go to the police station to bring Sophia back. It's just borrowing her jewelry. Does she really want to turn the world upside down? The next day, Dad still hasn't received a reply. They had to have the driver take him to the Smith family. He complained downstairs. Ethan, what have you done? Sophia is still locked up, but you don't care at all. As he approached the room, the smell of alcohol rushed in. He trembled as he picked up the divorce agreement. Isabella wants to divorce you. Why? What does she know? What about Sophia? Ethan leaned against the headboard, still mumbling to himself. She must be teasing me. How could she possibly divorce me? After saying that, he seemed to wake up a little. He mumbled for someone to bring him some hangover medicine. What bad luck. Dad angrily went downstairs. Call Mrs. Wilson to get the medicine. Wait for Ethan to finish his shower. Just as he was about to sit down and discuss things with Dad, Sophia rushed in. She seemed a bit flustered. Where is Isabella? Tell her to come out and see me. She made me feel so embarrassed. What kind of sister is she? Ethan frowned. He said to Sophia, Sophia, Isabella is your sister. How can you speak like that? Also, you donated that set of jewelry. It was indeed done without her consent. Sophia bit her lip. She asked with a tone of dissatisfaction, Ethan, what do you mean by that? You have always cared about me the most, but now you speak for someone else. She is not an outsider. She is my wife. Ethan finished saying this. His expression was somewhat dazed. He appeared at a loss. He said softly, but now, she wants to divorce me. Sophia tightly grasped his arm. I don't care. You said before that you would always protect me. Now quickly issue a statement to support me. I'm about to be overwhelmed by the online backlash. Ethan suddenly shook off her hand. You returned safely, but Isabella has gone missing. Sophia looked disdainful. She did that kind of thing. Of course she has to hide. Otherwise, how could Dad possibly let her come home? At this moment, Dad's phone kept ringing. After he finished the call, his expression became very unsightly. What happened? We were in good talks with the Johnson family and the Reynolds family. How did Isabella suddenly give up? Sophia's eyes turned cold. It seems she wants to take revenge on us. Dad, Ethan, why don't you take this opportunity? Just kick her out of the house. She's so disobedient. What's the use of keeping her? Dad was just about to speak. Suddenly, he couldn't catch his breath. He almost suffocated. They quickly took him to the hospital. The doctor asked, has he had any illnesses before? Is he allergic to anything? Have you had any surgeries? Ethan looked at Sophia in confusion. He found she also had a blank expression. She didn't know anything. He couldn't help but think of his wife. She was caring and thoughtful. She remembered the tastes of both him and his parents clearly. She could always consider everyone's feelings. Every time he took her back to his hometown, his parents' smiles were especially genuine. It's just a pity they couldn't help take care of the kids. Sophia left before Dad's surgery was over. She said she had to deal with an emergency at the agency. Dad immediately asked when he woke up, where did Sophia go? Why isn't she here? He looked at the empty desk beside him. He sighed and said, when I was hospitalized before, there was always a professional caregiver by my side. They would regularly check my blood pressure and blood sugar. They always had my favorite fruits and nutritious meals nearby. Ethan lowered his head and said, all of this was prepared by Isabella. Sophia walked over holding several takeout boxes. Her eyes were red. She said to her father, Dad, from now on, I'll be the one taking care of you, she continued. Those people brought up my mom's issues. They said I shouldn't take up space. They even accused me of stealing. What's more infuriating is, they actually spread rumors that I'm unwelcome at home, and the company no longer wants me. I really can't stand this situation. Dad, can you transfer the shares to me? I want to make those people understand. I am still the most favored and respected daughter of the Johnson family. Dad let out a deep sigh. His eyes were filled with disappointment. Sophia, you only see yourself in your eyes. I just had surgery. I haven't even had a chance to deal with the company's matters. You don't even care about how I'm doing. You are only focused on getting what you want. You have disappointed Dad too much. If your sister were here, she would care about my health, and I wouldn't have to worry about the company's issues. Suddenly, she threw the food container to the ground. The soup splattered everywhere. It even splashed onto the pure white sheets. She said angrily, older sister, she is gone. Now you all start to remember her good side. You think, after she knows about those things, would she still forgive you? The two of them turned pale. During this time, I felt an unprecedented sense of ease since birth. There's no need to bear others' expectations and pressure. There's also no need to consider anyone else's feelings. I don't need to pay attention to others' criticisms. Just live according to my own wishes. I explored all the cities I like, and I learned how to ice skate. Meanwhile, the Johnson family and the Smith family have been searching for my whereabouts. When Ethan found me in the icy Midwest, he was so surprised that he couldn't speak. The usually well-mannered me actually had a head full of golden waves. With a relaxed smile on my face, he looked much haggard. His clothes were wrinkled. He still had stubble on his face. He was raised with gentlemanly education. His demeanor has always been elegant and proper. This is the first time I've seen him so flustered. He walked over quickly, trying to take my hand. Isabella, I finally found you. I held back my laughter and immediately took a step back. The divorce agreement has been signed. You can just send it directly by express delivery. No need to make a special trip. He shouted loudly. I disagree. He immediately showed a hurt expression. He saw Ryan wearing a white coat. He slowly walked and stood not far behind me. He said, Isabella, we've been neighbors since we were little, and classmates as well. It's been 5 years of marriage. I don't believe you have no feelings for me at all. I couldn't help but laugh, I see. We still have so many connections between us. He looked nervous. He stared at me closely. He asked, Do you think I am too nice to Sophia and have ignored you? Are you jealous? I sincerely apologize to you. All these years, I haven't done enough for you. I will correct it. Can you give me a chance to make it up? Let's consider it for my parents' sake. You chose me back then. How can you push me away now? I took out the voice recorder from my bag. I slapped it heavily against his chest. Don't use your seniority to pressure me. They know that the marriage was a scam from the beginning. You know it's for Sophia. Did you risk the entire Smith family? In your eyes, I'm nothing. You're pretending to come find me again. What do you really want, Ethan? I'm really tired. I don't want to see you keep acting. Those unpleasant memories. You can slowly recall them yourself. Bringing up my ex-fiancé, Ryan. We happened to meet on a tour group, so we became travel companions. Relaxing together. We had a lot of fun. We tacitly avoided the topic of the past. I walked for a while. I turned around and found Ethan still standing there. Not long after, he was actually squatting on the ground, crying heart-wrenchingly. I'm almost done playing, just turn the phone back on. This period of time. My dad called me 20 times and I missed them. Ethan called over 1,000 times. He also said, Don't find me annoying. I hope you can answer my call as soon as possible, as long as you're willing to turn back. I'm right behind you. Additionally, the scene just now was recorded by someone after it was posted online. It quickly became a hot topic. Before long, netizens discovered that this person was the main character involved in the previous donation scandal. At the same time, there are reports that Sophia may not be able to return, and her brother-in-law lost control of his emotions on the street because of this. Sophia has been abandoned by her family. Her brother-in-law went to the Midwest to pursue love, but was rejected. Netizens commented, This marketing tactic is too poor. They actually made a sob story for the person who caused the incident. Her sister is worse off. She even lost her job. She ran away to the Midwest to wander alone. I saw her eating instant noodles in the snow. My heart ached for her. Seeing this, it really made me both laugh and cry. Then, it seems my dad saw the comments online. Suddenly, he showed a bit of overflowing fatherly love. He transferred $200,000 to me, $200,000. Actually, that's just enough for me to charter a plane for a business trip, in his heart and eyes. I still seem to be the same obedient daughter who can be easily coaxed. I only listened to him. Isabella, Dad doesn't want to drive you away. You will always be a part of this family. Seeing you not doing well, I also feel upset. As long as you're willing to come back and apologize, we will all forgive you. You are still the daughter-in-law of the Smith family, and my most beloved daughter. If I didn't understand his current chaotic financial situation, I might mistakenly think he cares about me. Actually, he just wants me to go back and continue working hard for them. It's time to make him a little anxious. That night, I received a call from Dad. Isabella, if the Johnson family collapses because of you, you would be the sinner of the family. You clearly have the ability to help me, yet you stand by and do nothing, refusing to take action. I couldn't help but laugh. When I helped them back then, no one praised me as a benefactor. They treated me as a pawn, using my talents and marriage to benefit the Johnson family. In the end, I became the sinner. If I don't do something, I really owe you for this big hat you've placed on me. Dad was panting on the other end of the phone, but there was nothing much that could be done. The Johnson family is a family business. The interests are tangled and complex. Dad is in power because uncles and elders have fallen ill and passed away one after another. Years ago, to reassure the elders to hand over power, he worked hard and was humble. Since his stepmother died in childbirth after giving birth to Sophia, he devoted all his attention to Sophia. In high school, he had me help with paperwork. Later, he entrusted me with everything, big or small. I saw the problems within the Johnson family, but I knew I couldn't change them. During these years abroad, I had already started my own company. Although it wasn't large, it was enough to provide me with support for the latter half of my life. Additionally, I also have the inheritance and dowry left by my mother. After the news spread, those who had collaborated with me in the past came to seek me out. They wanted to continue doing business with me. The Smith family was also affected. Many projects ran into problems. Ethan was troubled by these matters. Over the years, he had become accustomed to being praised and flattered in the spotlight. He had long forgotten how fierce the competition in business could be. Last time he stood up to speak for Sophia, it resulted in public outrage. He was mocked and criticized by people in the circle. These days, Mr. and Mrs. Smith have been contacting me. They've said quite a few emotional things, but I've rejected them one by one. At first, they actually did not approve of this marriage until they met me and talked with me. Only then did they reluctantly agree. Over the years of living together, their recognition and affection for me are even greater than Ethan's. I heard that the two elders quickly took over the company's affairs and kicked Ethan out of the house. They even told him, if you can't win back your wife, then never come back to the Smith family. So he chased after us, all the way to France. In France, the Reynolds family's business influence is significant. That year, after Ryan was forced to break off the engagement by his family, he lost confidence for a while. 3 years later, he got back on his feet and took over the Reynolds family's business in France, and he has been doing increasingly well. We need to develop the market here. I have to deal with him. That day, I rented a boat. Please invite him to drink with a few business friends to talk about investments. I stood at the bow of the boat with a bottle of wine. Suddenly, I heard Ethan calling me from behind. Isabella, you are as sad as I am. Right, I understand now. You actually don't want to leave me either. He snatched my wine away, poured it directly into his mouth. These days, I've been like you, drinking more than before combined. I'm a bit drunk. I waved my hand at him. You drink because you have no choice. I drink because I'm happy and comfortable. He frowned tightly. His expression was anxious. If we don't go back soon, everything in the Johnson family will be taken away by others. Sophia is no longer in the entertainment industry. She spends all day at home revolving around your dad, urging him to transfer the shares. I smiled nonchalantly and even burped. Isn't this what you all wanted to see? Now you're pretending to be the good guy again. Why don't you give her your shares too? Only then can we see if you're sincere. He shook his head vigorously. Back then, I indeed had impure motives. I've thought it through, all these years. In my heart, you have always been my only eternal wife. He kept comforting himself, using the excuse of saving a loved one to inquire about my whereabouts. I've had enough. People often say to look at actions, not intentions. Ethan, the things you've done over the years, how many of them were truly for my sake? What's the point of saying those insincere words? If you still have a shred of kindness in your heart, then hurry up and sign the agreement. All these years, I've taken care of you. Just consider this the only reward. The hope in his eyes slowly faded, replaced by a near-collapse silence. At this moment, Ryan walked directly up to him. He said, I can now admit it openly. I'm not worthy of Isabella. She is strong and responsible, while I used to be too timid. What about you? Can you admit it honestly? You are really lucky to be able to marry her. I particularly envy you. You've known each other since childhood, grew up together, from school days to marriage, but I didn't expect that by middle age, she would be completely disappointed in you. It's because you didn't cherish her. Don't blame others. He spoke lightly. It didn't sound like an accusation, more like a narration. After Ethan listened, he didn't say a word. Suddenly, he turned over the railing and jumped directly into the river. Everyone was startled. They hurriedly and clumsily pulled him back up and sent him to the ambulance. As his nominal wife, I stayed by his side after resuscitation. He is out of danger now, but he is still in a coma. Even in his sleep, he still furrows his brow. Sometimes he even softly calls my name. 3 days later, he finally woke up. He immediately started searching for something on his body. He pulled it out from the zipper pocket of his clothes. He gently wiped it. This is his wedding ring. It was previously thrown out of the window by Sophia. I didn't expect he would find it again, wrapped in velvet. He has kept it with him all along. What a pity. It's already too late. I stood up, preparing to leave. He called out to me from behind. I will have someone deliver the divorce agreement to you tomorrow. I will have my lawyer finalize the details. I casually nodded. Isabella, I will prove it with my actions in the days to come. I will do my best to make up for my mistakes. I paused for a moment and then quickly walked away. The next day, I received the divorce agreement he signed. The modifications he made all relate to my property rights. Except for a few properties we jointly owned after marriage. He also transferred some assets that his parents prepared for him before marriage to me. While I was in silence, Dad kept calling. In the end, he even texted saying he couldn't hold on much longer. When I rushed to the hospital room, the usually serious Dad was holding my hand and crying. He used to be hospitalized 2 or 3 times a year, but he was always in good spirits. He still had the energy to call people to play mahjong with him. This year, since I left, the company has been managed solely by him. Sophia still finds trouble from time to time. He went to the hospital multiple times within a month due to anxiety and anger. Ethan can't forgive himself. Ethan cannot forgive himself. He is also dissatisfied with him. It's been a long time since I visited him. Sophia complained again that he was unwilling to transfer shares to support her. He only cares about enjoying himself outside. Half a year. He looks much older. His hair has turned completely white. He keeps nagging. He talked about many things happening at home and at the company. Among them, there were quite a few complaints about Sophia. It's all my fault for pampering her too much. I gave in to her on everything. It made her selfish and willful. Now it's too late to regret. He let out a long sigh. Just like you young people often say, it's a boomerang. I am also suffering the consequences of my actions. This time, I almost lost my life. That's when I truly felt scared. I don't want to be left alone in the hospital, facing death in solitude. Isabella, I've given all my possessions to you. I hope you'll come back often to see this old man. I know you've always been very filial. He looked very sad. It was almost like he was begging. I responded calmly. Unfortunately, that obedient and caring Isabella, who could be easily manipulated, is no longer here. I've learned that. You transferred the 2 resorts under your name to her. His gaze wandered. He stammered. Actually, I was doing it for. I interrupted him before he could finish. No matter what you say, whether you entice me with benefits or pretend to be pitiful, I will not turn back. For the past 20 years, I have devoted almost all my energy to taking care of you and the Johnson family, only to find that I am just a pathetic character, just a background to Sophia. I cannot live my life like this. I absolutely do not want to become like my mother. Hearing me mention my mother, he pressed his lips together. His gaze turned to the window, lost in thought. She dedicated most of her life to the Johnson family. She devoted most of her life to the Johnson family. Yet she left this world early. She never got to enjoy a single day of happiness. In the end, even her daughter has become someone else's pawn, paving the way for others' love and wealth. My dad's words sound quite nice. He says he regrets it. He has come to his senses. He wants to make it up to me. This is indeed quite attractive for a child who has longed for recognition. But I understand in my heart, if Sophia were a bit smarter, if she could act a little better. After tricking my dad out of his fortune, she would turn against him. That would be terrible. The winner would still be her, only her. We used to have a good relationship. After getting married, Dad and Ethan took special care of her. They even helped her become a popular star. She has become increasingly willful. But on the variety show, she explained, because someone is pampering her, so she's not afraid. This incident has a big impact on her, mainly because she has offended quite a few people in the past. Even Mrs. Reynolds is unwilling to deal with her anymore. We both fell silent. Suddenly, the door was kicked open. Sophia stood at the door, her face full of anger. Ethan looked serious. She put down what she was holding and pushed me aside. No wonder my dad has been unwilling to transfer the shares to me. So it was you who was scheming behind the scenes. Haven't you already left home? Are you back now to seek his forgiveness? Dad immediately stopped her. Sophia, don't say any more. It was I who invited Isabella back. She is your sister. How can you speak like this? Oh, now you're feeling sorry. The things you said before were much more serious than this. You need me to help you remember. She scooped a bowl of soup from the food container and handed it to Dad, but Dad angrily refused to take it. She turned to look at Ethan, but found that he had been gazing at me affectionately. She let out a cold laugh. She grabbed a ceramic soup bowl and threw it at me. You all say that Isabella is just a stepping stone for me. Ethan still thinks she's annoying, claiming she is not good enough. Ethan hurriedly pushed me away. As a result, his arm was struck, leaving a long wound. He stormed over angrily and slapped her to the ground. Why don't you listen when I tell you to shut up? Do you have to pick at people's scars? Since childhood, you have always argued with Isabella over everything. Isabella is truly sincere with people, but you always speak ill of her in front of me. You can't compare to her at all. From now on, you will never think of hurting her in the slightest. Dad looked at her coldly, not a word to help her. She covered her face. Her expression was both shocked and stubborn. What's wrong with you? After the divorce, I ended up loving her instead. You said that. In your heart, there's always only me. Brother Ethan. How can you not keep your word? She rushed over and tightly hugged Ethan. The father turned his head. I don't want to see this scene. I picked up my bag. I turned and left. After just a few steps, I heard Ethan's voice behind me. Sophia, don't say any more. I haven't wronged you these years. The only thing I feel indebted for is my wife Isabella. I will use the rest of my time to correct my mistakes. Starting today, I want to take back everything I gave you before. The father sadly advised her, Sophia, you are so willful, always complaining. This will only harm yourself. But Sophia replied nonchalantly, let it be. If I die, I die. Anyway, everyone will die eventually. Your health is so poor. Do you really think you can live longer than me? Just turn the corner of the stairs. Ethan shouted for the doctor loudly, probably because Dad fainted again from anger. Recently, during this period, the relationship between father and daughter is tense. Dad only canceled her most expensive credit card. Other living expenses are still provided as usual. I sighed, didn't stay any longer. It's just that I didn't expect. My dad passed away that night. Ethan couldn't find anyone at the hospital. Later, he learned that his body had already been sent to the crematorium by Sophia. Ethan had the bodyguards secure the scene, not allowing Sophia's people to take anything from the Johnson family. He even called the police. When I arrived at the Johnson family, the police were already there. Sophia was arguing with them. She said, that's right. You used to be his son-in-law, but now you have no relation to the Johnson family at all. What right do you have to stop me? Dad has always cared for me a lot. He once said that all these things are left for me. The butler and the maid can testify to that. She was happily thinking about it. This villa and the company shares. Dad said so. They are all left for me. Just then, Ethan took out the will that Dad made before his death. Dad gave me the shares of the Johnson family and the family house. All other properties in the country also belong to me. While the several houses, winery, and farm abroad were given to Sophia, I have to say, the older generation is really shrewd. He knew that my main focus now is on developing overseas markets, but he still wanted to use this method to make me compromise. He hopes that I will stay and continue to take care of the Johnson family. His way of expressing sincerity is to send Sophia abroad. We signed quietly. There's a bit of dissatisfaction in my heart. My emotions seem unstable. Ethan asked me to stay put. He said he would take me back later. Everyone has left. I'm the only one standing in front of the Johnson family. Dazed, on my 8th birthday, I won first place in a dance competition outside. When Dad found out, he waited for me at the door for 2 full hours. As soon as he saw me, he sprayed confetti at me. He happily picked me up and spun me around. He said, my Isabella is the best little girl. You will always be Dad's pride. From now on, the Johnson family will be in your hands. Dad can rest easy now. I had only been away for 2 hours. Just 2 hours since I left today. Then he passed away. I couldn't see him for the last time. My heart is filled with both love and hate. It feels particularly suffocating, unknowingly. Tears started to flow down. My vision also became blurry. That's exactly why. I saw a car coming. I thought it was Ethan, but I didn't expect that car to suddenly accelerate. It came straight at me. At that moment, I heard a loud crash. It turned out to be Ethan. He drove to block that car for me. Sophia was bleeding from her head. Her legs couldn't move, but she was still reaching out to grab me. Why? I've been spoiled by the Johnson family for over 20 years, and in the end, you took the lead. What right do you have? He said angrily. Dad always said he only cared for me, but this will make me the target of everyone's blame. Does he think I haven't been neglected and looked down upon enough? How can I accept that I want you to pay the price? After she shouted, she completely lost consciousness. Sophia seemed to have the intention of taking us both down. This collision directly cost her life. Ethan accelerated as he drove past from the side. The passenger seat of the car was the most severely damaged. As a result, he suffered a concussion. His right leg was also permanently disabled. 3 months later, he was finally able to be discharged from the hospital. I thanked him. He smiled at me while leaning on his cane. Don't mention it, Isabella. It's what I should do. I'm glad to help you. I'm very happy. He had regained his previous frail appearance, but his eyes were much clearer and more sincere than before. I said with a smile. All right, then please put in a bit more effort. Help me manage the Johnson family. Later, I sold the Johnson family's domestic assets to him at a price below market value. I spent 6 months handling things here, then set off back to France. Before the plane took off, Ethan sent me a text message. I will arrange for someone to clean the Johnson family house every day. You can stay whenever you come back. Even if you only come back once every few years, it's fine. I have always been waiting for you. Remember, as long as you are willing. The door of the Smith family will always be open for you. I sighed. I shook my head, put down the phone. I just wanted to lie down in the armchair for a while. The phone rang again. It's Ryan calling. Everything is going well with the business here. You don't need to worry. I have made up my mind to become your most reliable and trustworthy partner. The celebration banquet tomorrow night. You must come. I will introduce you to the new boss. Also, Isabella, congratulations on your new life. Wishing you all the best. The plane quickly ascended into the sky. All I could see were blue skies and white clouds. My mood also lightens up accordingly. It feels as clear and open as the sky. From now on, I will live only for myself.